Domain to Profit Studio, aka some extra office space in my office building, and we are here to talk about domain names that we can take, develop into a business. I'm Drew Wash. This is Domain to Profit. It is Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we get to look through this week's opportunities in the form of expired domain names that someone out there is letting go. They've let the domain name expire, and it's going to come up for auction over the next week. And that means that you and me and all of us together have the opportunity to purchase a domain name that has been off the market. It's coming onto the market so we can grab it and do amazing things. So that's what we will do. That's going to be part 3. First, after we get through the intro and get to hang out a little bit in the chat, we are going to look at last week's sales. In fact, I'm going to share with you my $20,000 bid that failed to acquire a domain name. I'll share what that domain name is just on the other side here in a few minutes. And then part 2, I'm going to talk a little bit about what the right domain name is, refresh a little bit of something that we've talked about with that. So what is the best domain name? Of all the hundreds of thousands of domains that we look through, what are the ones that it takes to turn into a business? And then finally, we're going to look through this week's expiring domain names, finding the best ones, talking about businesses we can put on them. I'm Drew Wash. This is Domain to Profit. Make sure you say hi in the chat. Let everybody know that you're here, because everybody in the chat's the best part of this. See you on the other side.
From domain to profit, from a dot to a business idea. Take a domain name, develop an income from domain to profit. We'll show you how. Domain to profit, from domain to profit. Join Drew Wash and get started right now.
I crack myself up with all the buttons I get to push. I love it. The other Matt, I love it. Like, thank you for. I saw that after last week's show that you changed your name to the other Matt. It cracks me up. Thanks for being here. Thanks for just cracking me up. And in from India, I appreciate it. That is great. Notes and coins. Wondering what that's all about. Feel free to share. Welcome to each of you that are out there. Let me see. We have everything tied up. Everything's rolling. So whether you're joining us on Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever, just let us know where you're coming from. And as we dive into this week's domains, some exciting stuff. But first, I want to go over, and we're going to look at some screens. Boom. Okay, not that one yet. We're going to go over to these here. These are the GoDaddy domains. So as I mentioned, I'm not going to make you wait till the end of the show. Last week, I made a bid over $20,000, or actually $20,000 was the bid for a domain name that we talked about last week. In this crazy turn of events, I'll show you the domain name. I'll show you what happened. Weird things happen in domain auctions. Got to go with it. But anyhow, here we go. So this is backstage on my GoDaddy auctions page. And the domain name in particular that I want to show you was culinaryschool.com. Remember that domain name, culinaryschool.com? Great domain name. We saw on SpyFu that it had great traffic, great number of people searching for it, localized well, meaning the domain name had a lot of searches also for culinary school near me. So it localized well, gave us opportunities to pursue it in that way. And it also, for me, it fits our business model, the Tony.com business model, local search, representing an industry and so on. So we have a path to monetization. That means I could bid more than what I might typically do. Long story short, ended up maxing out at $20,000. But look at this bid history. This is one of the beauties of GoDaddy. When you bid, you get to see everything that's happening. And behind the scenes, so what ended up happening was I actually bid $20,005 because I didn't want somebody to bid $20,000 and win. I wanted to make sure that my proxy bid would go above it. So if you remember, we always want to set a high proxy bid. And that's exactly what happened. So it's very predictable what people will do in these auctions. It's all good. But we want to enter round numbers when we go to bid, which keep that in mind. Others will bid round numbers. And if I would have just bid 20,000, we would have tied. I would have said, but by going $5 above the round number, this person bid 20,000, and it only cost me $5 to continue to be the high bid. And the thing that happened with this domain, $20,000 in the line, I'm starting to it's ticking down to the final seconds. And what do you do when you're about to spend 20,000? I'm just kind of starting to look at okay, where's the funding going to come from? Do I have this account? Or anyhow, started to look at the funding, and I'm like, okay, 3, 2, 1, counts down. I win the auction. I'm like, oh, cool. And it says auction ended, verifying status, and then screen flashes, and boom, it's been extended 5 minutes because this bidder came in absolutely last second. I guess there's a second sync issue potentially on auctions. Really, anyhow, long story short, they bid, but then finally the winner came in, which a bidder number 141. That's a really that's an old. I think I'm 23,000. So whoever 141 is, that's old school. That's a domainer way older than me. So culinaryschool.com, bid 20,000, lost, but that one ended up going for 20,500, which I think is probably still a pretty good deal. Dolphintour.com, bid on that one as well. I think I ended up number 2. I bid 1688, ended up going for 1713. And then video apps, if you recall, videosoftware.com is something I own. I would have loved to have gotten video software or videoapps.com to go along with it, but I wanted it cheap and I could not get it. It ended up going for 1,300. So there you go. There is the summary of last week's domain names. So what did you bid on? What did you pursue? Did you get anything exciting, not exciting? Did you buy any domain names? Hopefully you held off and did not buy anything unless you had something great. In all cases, Culinary School is perfect for the business model that we love to use. Dolphin Tour, we have a lot of travel domains, so I kind of thought that went with it pretty well. And then, as I mentioned, Video Apps was purely to protect against videosoftware.com, which we already own. That's just kind of pulling in domains to become more powerful. So hopefully all that makes sense. Good information for you. Let me see. I got some peeps popping in here. Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for that's cool. So collect some coins and notes and stuff. Oh yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. Thanks for being that local historian there. And then yes, we got Lionheart. Yes, that's the original Matt. And then we got the other Matt, of course. And then Fred coming in late as well. Thank you for saying hi, and make sure you all. We need to get together and chat outside the show as well. So, okay, so back to our domain. So we went over last week's domain name, showed you that $20,000 bid. So one of the things I also wanted to do was go over this here. I started to get a little fancy with this, or started to get a little more official. So I draw this out by hand a lot of times. And this here is, what's the right domain name? So we're about to look through a list of thousands of domain names. And the question is, and we get this in the chat all the time, what determines a domain name that you should go after? Like culinaryschool.com, $20,000 is a lot of money. Why? Why would you spend so much for that? Why are certain domains worth so much money versus other domains that aren't worth anything? Well, this is what we talk about when we talk about domain names. And here's the idea. The idea is the domain name is this gray box here. And the domain name is land that anybody can build on. You can build anything you want to. You can build your business on any domain name. Bubba's domain name XYZ, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. If you have a great idea and want to build something, you can build it. You can build your empire, you Inc., on any domain name out there. And then the right domain names, you can even put up for sale. You can buy them, sell them. And that's some of the ways that a lot of people use domain names. But what we look for specifically here on Domain to Profit are the domain names that have rare materials in the ground. They're made of something that has like value already. So it's what is part of the actual domain name that makes them special. So what makes them special? That's where we get into a domain name that has authority, validation, and then access to an industry. Those are some of the principles that we talk about often. The way to look at this is if you owned culinaryschool.com and you call any culinary school out there and you say, hey, I'm Drew, I'm with culinaryschool.com, and what's going to happen as of that point? Like if you like identify yourself as with culinaryschool.com, there's things happening in the person that's hearing that immediately. They're going to assume you have authority, like, okay, this person already has this. I have no idea what the website is, don't know anything about it other than the domain name. There's some authority tied to that domain name. And it's validation of you as as you're calling, like you're immediately validated. Now, access to an industry. I'm a .com guy. I don't really know much about cooking or anything like that. I have my basic staples: tacos, chili, spaghetti. I can grill out some different things. I'm not a culinary expert. I have no right in being in the culinary school industry, but for $20,000, or in this case, $20,000, a little more, could have got culinaryschool.com, and that would have gave me access to that entire industry as if I had been part of it for many, many years. Now, you can ruin that reputation pretty quick, but still. So what ends up happening is it's like, hey, I'm with culinaryschool.com. There's a powerful thing that happens with that, and that's where the validation could be tested is if you were to say, hey, I'm Drew with culinaryschool.com, does it have that powerful ring to it, that test of authority that validates you? You can ask people, call people. If you're thinking about spending outside of your price range, you can test. Don't take my word for it. Don't go off your gut. Instead, call some places and kind of test it, see what happens, have conversations. So what we do when we have that domain name with that authority and that validation and that access to the industry, like it creates this value. Well, as domain developers, all we're trying to do is this here. We're just trying to tap it. Just put a tap on the side, turn on the spigot, pull out some of this here, which is just drips of money. Drips of money. Could be hundreds, could be thousands, could be tens of thousands. Well, those drips come out at the pace of the value of the domain name. But what happens is over time, those drips end up turning into big money over time, right? So it's drip, 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 20 drips a month, whatever it is. And then over time, we can pull that money out, that value out of that domain name. And that is how we stumble across what I call internet marketing as a service, which is the domain name as a service, turning a domain name into something that is shared with an industry and brings value to the industry. And then just through monthly subscriptions, we make money over time. It's all about monthly reoccurring cash flow. So that is what we look for primarily when we are looking for a great developable domain name. There are other business models which we can talk about other times. I have several listed out here that we talk about depending on the domain name that we look at, but we'll talk about them as they come up. So hopefully that's a refresher for those who have been with us for many months. But if you're new, hopefully that makes sense. You can see that not all domains will fit into that model. Many domain names will not, which is why we have to kind of manually look through these together and look at it. So let me see here. What do you think about alternative domain extensions? I hate them all. I don't see, like, if I owned, I don't hate them. I just don't. They are a domain name that can be built on like this here. They can be U Inc. If you owned toe.equipment, you can build something great on that. You know, it's easy enough. You'll have to explain maybe like why your domain's a little different from other people, but ultimately you can build on any domain name, but you're building above ground. You're building on top of that digital real estate where it doesn't have that under the ground presence. And one of the ways you can test that is if you were to if you had tow equipment, if towequipment.com became available or tow.com, like, would those be better domain names? The answer is yes. So I don't even bother to mess with those secondary domain names for that reason. That is, you want to stick with the best ones. Otherwise, what happens if you build a great business on tow.equipment? You build an empire, but you don't own towequipment.com. You kind of want it, but somebody else has it. Now, how much are they going to charge you if they have it for sale? Like, how much you're going to have to pay a fortune. So it's kind of like, just make sure you're starting on the authoritative, validating real estate. If you don't start there, you end up paying out later, which a lot of people determine that and figure that out. So let me see here. Michael's asking or mentioning one thing. Also, last week, lost one through GoDaddy is also registered at Network Solutions, and they have 40. Okay. So yeah, they had a pullback. I hate pullbacks. If you're not familiar with this, what we will see as we go through this list here is these domain names are coming up for auction. And if they renew, if the person that renewed them renews them, sometimes those domain names are actually pulled back. And even though you may have even won the auction, even if you won the auction and paid the money, even sometimes the domain name will be pulled back and you're refunded the money. It can be a huge, huge hassle. So just know that this industry is, that's one of the hassles that can come of it. And Darcy's mentioning the need for a Discord for domain development. And I don't know if I'm sure I've mentioned it. I just don't like Discord. I love community. I want to do this. I don't want to do it on Discord. I'm on there. I just don't like the platform. Things get lost. The search isn't very good. It doesn't allow you to create a good directory of talked about subjects. Like it's all linear and gets buried over time. I don't like that. So basically I want to create a community for us all to get together and have discussions, but I don't want those discussions to get lost. I want the main things to be able to be focused on. So Discord just isn't my thing. So, but thank you. Keep bringing it up. Eventually it's free. So maybe I'll end up having to do it. So here we are over on expireddomains.net. This is where you'll want to be. And down here is the web address you can go to learn about the filters that we use to turn 500,000 domain names each week. 500,000 domains are going to expire on GoDaddy this week. And we take those domain names, filter them down. And this week it took us under 100,000. So now 98,000 domains, which we're only going to look through about 400 of them here. So you're going to be on your own. However, let me go out here and just kind of show you this. We want to order it by this here, which is not already. So I'm glad I looked. We order it by valuation. Valuation is not actually how much they're worth, but it is very helpful at bringing the best ones up to the top. And so even though we may only look at 200, 400, 600 domain names today, those 200, 400, 600 domain names are starting with the ones that GoDaddy perceives as most valuable. And if you know this show, you'll know that that doesn't mean much other than it's helpful to order by. Like Culinary School last week, I think was I don't even know if that was on the first screen. That might have been a second screen domain name that ended up selling for more than $20,000. So that's why it's important not to pay attention to that about the domain name. So, and let me stay logged into GoDaddy, although I don't know if I'll need to be, but okay, here we get back. Okay, so I'll leave the filter address up there if you want to get to that video. Otherwise, I'll assume you're with me. I'm not sure what just happened, but once I guess it refreshed. Now we're down to 95,000 domains. Okay. Let me see. I want to pull up something on a different screen real quick. Apologies for the delay. Yeah, maybe I'm not going to. It's going to be a little slow if I won't be able to keep up with chat while I'm doing this, but hopefully that's not a big deal. I don't have it up on my spare screen anymore. So admiration.com, I do love that one. I mean, I'm very admirable of that, but the only thing is, what do you want to do with it? Like, so if we were looking, if we go back to that idea of that, of the, validating whiteboard thing here, like, who are we going to call that admiration.com is authoritative validating? So where we call and we say, hey, I'm with Drew with admiration.com. Like, who cares? Nobody cares. I barely so that's how we can test it. Even though it is a great domain name, worth buying and selling, possibly worth some money, it's not a good one for development. So we're going to keep on moving on. Reverse logistics. I'm not sure if that's a real thing. I'm a logistics guy, but I'm kind of curious. Reverse logistics. I mean, I assume that's just returns. It'd be a fancy way of saying returns. So yeah, I mean, over 4,400 searches. That's actually a pretty high number that we're going to see there. So this is SpyFu, by the way, spyfu.com. There is a free tool. You can see most of this information for free. I pay for it. And I encourage you to pay for it too if you want to. But as you know, I went for like a year without paying for it. So it's okay. But 4,400 searches. I love seeing that high of number. Now the question is if we go down here, yep, okay, that's interesting. So I like to see advertisers at double digits. So we only have 4 advertisers paying for stuff. They're paying a decent amount of money though, $4 per click. The only thing is if there's not a whole lot of advertisers, there's not that competition, and there's not the people on the other side of the phone when you're calling to say, hey, I'm with reverselogistics.com. If there's only 4 advertisers, they're just kind of like, cool, buddy. They're not ravenous. They're not like looking for a way to outcompete the other parties, which is why I like to see double digits. I like to see people really have to put some money and effort into their marketing, so that way your solution is an easy sale. So 4 advertisers, $4 per click. So parts of it are good, parts of it are bad. 4,400. I don't know. Like, I don't like the number one question here is what is reverse logistics? I mean, one fifth, 1/10, 1/8 of the people are searching for what is the name, what is the purpose of this? I don't. So I like it. I don't love it. I do like the fact I don't see very often people searching for the exact domain name. So if you see that with quotations around it, that means 4,100 people, and that might just be because the domain name's coming up for auction or something, but that means people are looking for the exact phrase reverse logistics. And this is that exact phrase that they were looking for. Now, I would be a little cautious. I would think that these might go away. Why are they in quotation marks? Why is that so competitive with the normal search for it? I don't know. That's unusual. And if I'm saying it's unusual, it's pretty unusual because I don't see that very often. Okay, so reverse logistics, how would we monetize it? I have no idea. But here's what you could do with it. We know that reverse logistics, there's traffic, people are looking for it, and there are people paying to target it. Only 4 of them, $1,700 currently. And this ends in 2 days. I could see spending maybe up to a couple $1,000s to get this and reaching out to those 4 advertisers, putting them on a directory, featuring them on reverse logistics. Wouldn't all 4 of those all those people are paying up to $4 per click. Like, would they be willing to pay you a monthly fee to be featured on that exact keyword.com? Maybe, maybe not. It's not competitive enough to be a sure thing, but I don't know. Wireframes.com. I enjoyed. I saw that Peter Askew mentioned this on Twitter, and I saw it last week when he mentioned it. I'm like, oh, I can't wait for that to show up on the show. Now, the downside is it is a great domain name, but look at the price. Oh, $4,800. That's big money. So wireframes, if you don't know, it's kind of like when you sketch together what a web page might look like or an app or something like that. Wireframes is kind of what that's called. You're wireframing out or sketching or prototyping. So $4,800. So let's just do a quick search on spyfood.com. I'm guessing there's big keywords, but not money. So 1,100 people searching for it. 7, so we're getting a little higher. But here's the thing, not double digits. We're not home run. We're not culinary school. So wireframe. Oh, and then there's also some wireframing. So this domain name, wireframes.com. Well, one of the things we have to look at is alternatives. This is really important to do, is look at alternatives. Why do we look at alternatives? Well, because right here, wireframe.com. So we may own wireframes.com, but wireframe.com is equally, if not a better domain name. And then we also have wireframing.com is another one. So those are two very good alternatives. So no matter what value we come up with here, which I would say this domain name is probably a $1,600 domain name, which, as you can see, it's already well above that. So people are buying it with a business model already in place, or they're investing in it to sell it for more. Who knows? But I'd be about $1,600 as a domain developer, mostly because it's going to be divided amongst those other domain names. So keep that in mind. Know the alternatives. And I learned that lesson with doggroomers.com, which I bought for big money, and ended up having to pay big money also for doggroomer.com because it was split. I needed them both. Okay. Radiobroadcast.com. I don't know what you do with it. It's an old domain name. So I'm moving on. Air Center? I don't know. Is that where you go to get your tires blown up? Ooh, is that Cannabis Finder? Let's check out Cannabis Finder. So I have a couple different filters set up that I can look for domains. I look for towing. I look for, well, I'll go look. Actually, I won't go look. But I look for towing, but cannabis is also one of the domains that I keep an eye out for, just because it's a growing industry. So if you can find a good domain name in it, it can increase in value, increase in searches. Yeah, nobody's searching for it. And I'm not surprised by no advertisers, because cannabis is a lot of times you're not allowed to pay for traffic, but that is why I look for it. So we see that people are searching just very little. There's very little traffic behind it. So that means kind of nix this one. I'm going to skip over it, other than to say nobody's allowed to pay Google because cannabis is a controlled substance in the US. So even though it's controlled at the federal level, and Google is a federal company, so you're not, but that creates an opportunity. There's money that people that want to advertise, but they can't do business with Google because Google's scared of it, but you might be able to step in and collect some of it. But not a great domain name for that. Let me check in on chat, make sure I'm not missing too much. I'm not 100% sure. Used in game development, Matt. Wireframing. Yeah. I'm guessing that's what that was wireframing. So yes, wireframing was used. It's used in anything design related for just creating, it's like creating boards or posts, whiteboards. Anyhow, maybe. Alrighty. So if I haven't mentioned this in a while, but feel free to, if you see something in the list that I'm not calling out, feel free to call it out. Or keep it to yourself if it's something you want to bid on. I know some people like watch and go, don't mention that domain. Don't mention that domain name because they want to go bid on it and don't want me to call it out. Online homeschool, I don't know if that's I think there's better ways to say that, but let's go find out. So as you can see, what I'm doing here is I'm just taking the exact domain name, breaking it into words, and doing a search for it. So I'm breaking down the exact keyword search. That's one of the ways that when we go back to what is a good domain development or domain for development, is that's what we're looking for. Like we don't have to question. We don't have to go with our gut. We don't have to go with our feeling on a domain name. We can look at the exact keywords that are part of that domain name. and the exact keywords. You don't want to add my or get, or, you can add words to a domain name and make it still good, but it's cheating. It's not really good. It's almost like fake good. So you can make money, but it's not going to, you're always going to wish you had the main domain name is what it comes down to. And if somebody does exactly what you're doing on a secondary domain, they're going to kick your butt. Okay, online homeschool, 1,400 searches, online homeschool programs, which I love to see our keyword used in other searches. So this means that if we created content on our domain name for online homeschooling programs, booyah, we could target this keyword, these keywords with our domain name. Of course, homeschool.com could target online homeschool programs. So as an alternative domain name, homeschool.com would be one of them, but certainly worth looking at. Free online homeschool. So there's some good keyword volume around it. Oh, ooh, and some money. I love seeing the money. So 17 advertisers paying up to $5.57 per click. So that's pretty good stuff. I like to see these numbers. I just was noticing something. It's like homeschool is one word here, but down below it's broken to two. Is it one or two words? Let's find out. Why does that look so weird? I feel like I'm having a Drew spelling. Okay, so broken into three words: homeschool, online, homeschool onlining. So the exact match gets lower, but those trying to reach this keyword again, though, look at this, 21 average. So there's a lot of money. There's a lot of people scrapping. So that's what we like to see, those bloody waters. People are like desperate. You got 21 people competing, paying $8 per click, trying to reach the traffic, and you call them up and you throw this life vest out to them, or one of those circle things with the life preserver things. You throw it out in those shark-infested waters, and you say, "I'm Drew with onlinehomeschool.com. Would you like to feature your company?" And what do you think somebody that's swimming and competing with 20 other companies, many dollars per click, what do you think? They're going to grab onto that freaking life raft and let you pull them in. That's what we're looking for. So that even though the traffic's low, I do like the fact that there's such good competitive stuff behind it. So 3 days is when it ends, $520 currently. Do not bid until later. What would it be for? What would the cost? I would easily bid. I think it's easily at 800 some domain name. I always have three numbers. I need to come up with a way to explain this a little bit, but so I have three numbers when I go to buy a domain name. One is the just absolutely dirt cheap, like I'll buy it and then I can always resell it. So this will be my investor hat. As a domain investor, if I'm going to do the buy and sell type of move here, I want to pay as low as possible. So my domain investor price, I would want it $800 or less. Now I have a middle of the road option, which is, I would love to develop it, but I know that it's not going to be developed immediately because I don't have a way to monetize it. But I could see this being monetized in worth easily $1,600. The way I come up with that is I look at the search volume, the number of keywords, especially under this former screen where the homeschool was together. So we can look at this. In fact, because it's so competitive, the volume is there. I could see it even be $2,600 on that middle number. That's not the investor number. That is a domain developer number up to that $2,600. Now, if I had a way to monetize this domain name already, so if I had already built out a domain name that I believed I could just plug this domain name into that format and do the work to market and sales, and I could generate money. This domain name would probably be something I would go up to potentially as high as 5 figures. I'd probably max out about $8,500 to $8,800. However, I do not have one. Therefore, I will not do that. So I would be stuck around my middle number. If I was to bid on this, it would be in that $1,200 to $1,400 range. Hopefully that range, those 3 numbers, there's 3 reasons I might bid. So if I had a way, like culinaryschools.com, it was right in that 2 to 3 range. It was in the, I was willing to pay money for it. Now, if I had it ready to go and could develop it, I would have went up even higher for it. But I wasn't there yet. I don't want to spend money like that. Okay. Hopefully it's helpful to kind of see those ranges. A lot of times I quote you a 2. So I assume you're the middle of the road. You are looking for a domain development project. You do not have a way to monetize it, but you're willing to put the work in to develop and then do the sales. That's that middle of the road. That's that $1,200 range for that one. All righty, moving on. And I guess I should check on chat because that was a lot of craziness. Okay. Chat checked. So a lot like with culinary schools, I was hoping to get it for much less. I was hoping to get it for, a low 2 number, which would have been around 6,000 to 7,000, maybe even 8,000. But I started to have to work my way towards my max because it does plug into our business model. Hopefully that you can see how you might have different numbers there. That gets a little bit confusing, but there are definitely reasons. So for example, topprofile.com, I don't know what you would do with that, but maybe you have different profiles, different projects, businesses, people. If you had something that already broke down company profiles and things, and this was just going to be an add-on, and you're just taking something you've already developed and adding on to it, you might bid more for this domain name. Otherwise, that's like $100 domain name at max, because what is that? I don't know what that is. Top profile? Whatever. Maybe a bad example. Socially awkward. This guy. Okay, socially awkward. I love the domain name. I'm going to add that to my watch list. This is one of those things where it probably has a ton of search traffic, but this is where you have to watch out. Hopefully we can get some data that will show you why this domain name might not be. Okay, so this number is good, but I'm guessing the money numbers down below are not going to be good. So yes, that's exactly what I expected. This is one of those traps that you really have to watch out for, especially if you're kind of newer to this, you've not done a development. A lot of people will see the big numbers up on top and just immediately be like, oh, it's worth a bunch of money. I'm going to put a bunch of money into it, when that's just not, it's a trap. It's a trap. Yes, there's people looking for it, but look at this. I'm socially awkward. No, I'm telling you, I'm socially awkward, but it's also a keyword on the screen. I cracked myself up. Okay, anyhow, but people are searching for that. So most likely this keyword, not searching being, this keyword is more of people searching for support or for fun or a community. They're not really looking for, it's not a money keyword. It's not something they're searching for to pay money or to buy a product or you can maybe hire a coach. I could see somebody, so this would probably be more of a content play to where maybe you're a therapist or a business coach or a public speaking coach, somebody in that arena. You buy sociallyawkward.com. You can even put up some ads or something and you sell a digital service that helps these people that say, hey, I'm socially awkward, or how not to be socially awkward. And you go and answer these questions over here on your website, and that's just setting up a marketing funnel for you. You answer those questions for free in some videos, and then you invite them into your $200, $300, $500 course that teaches them how to be more self-aware and less socially awkward or something like that. But that's a long play. That's not the simple, simple business model that we try to look at. But this domain name puts you in the perfect position for that because people are looking for you. They're saying, hey, I'm socially awkward. Please help me. We love socially awkward here, just so you know. We're all socially awkward. We should be. What we need is forgiveness for each other and appreciation of how awkward we all are. That's what we're really after. BettyWhite.com. This is don'tbuybеттywhite.com. I can't believe that. That's crazy. That domain name is going to go for a bunch of money for probably no reason. I'm just shocked to see it there. It's probably going to go for 5 figures. Wow. Okay. Socially awkward. I like that one. Stop making sense. Okay. Oh, let me see here. Dates online sounds like it could be cool. Dates, yeah. The middle S. Dates online. I don't like the middle S on that. And the middle S that Matt is referring to there is the dreaded middle S. One of the things that a lot of times happens with these domains is there will be a middle S that just doesn't make sense. It's there to trip up. If English is not your primary language, especially, it might seem minor to have a middle S, but a lot of times it just kind of leaves you going, I don't know. If it's not a sure, like a hell yes, a middle S makes sense, then avoid it. In dates online, I think is one of those things where I would probably avoid that one. So, but thank you for bringing that up, Matt. Okay, back to the list. News anchors. See, like, for example, that's a middle S that makes sense, right? News anchors. New anchors, like that doesn't make sense. Like the word is seriously news. So the middle S. So thank you, Expired Domains, for setting that up on a T for us to kind of explain. You could build something on voucher deals. Not sure what, but it sounds like a business name. Voucherdeals.com. Not sure what that would look like, but hospitality advisors. So as of this point, we're able to go through a page at a time pretty quickly. Cholesterol control, generation lead. See, it's a near miss. Avoid near misses. Near misses are where you can just spend a ton of money. If it's a near miss, and by that I mean you have what you would want, like a great domain name, and then you have a near miss, which is just a little off. And like lead generation, reverse those words, that's a thousands of dollar domain name. But generation lead, like there's no bonus points for being close to good. There's no participation trophy in a domain name. It needs to be the good domain name because otherwise you're going to have to explain to everybody what's going on. It's a disaster. You want the hero domain. You want the best version of it. Quality shops, it's a good brand one. But again, you're going to build something on top of that domain name. It's not really set up to be much. Love partner. No chill. That one's one I like for like for marketing purposes. Have you ever heard somebody say that guy has no chill? There's no chill about him. Meaning that's somebody that's driven, somebody that's just like he has no low, like he just is always going as fast as he can. There's no chill. I love it when domain names are one of those phrases. Those are great domain names for content. So for you to put a blog on, if you are somebody that somebody always says you have no chill, like boom, nochill.com. Be who you are. Have a great domain name that defines that, and somehow create a product or service or just a blog and then sell ads or something like that. But that's how I'd roll with no chill. Dadtalks.com. I like that. I don't know what you put on it. I think that one's more of a just, dads being dads. Maybe it's a free therapy service where people, there's so many people out there that aren't blessed to have a father or somebody that they could talk to about guy stuff. I could see that being a great domain name for, hey, chat with a random dad, get advice from a dad or something like that'd be cool. I can imagine that could help out a lot of teenage guys, especially maybe teenage girls as well. And look at this, Mom Talks. So Dad Talks and MomTalks.com. Now that they're a pair, I like it a lot more. Okay, so this is still cheap. Do not, if you want this domain name, if you see that and like, oh, I'd love Dad Talks or Mom Talks, don't bid until late. If you bid on this, you're just going to invite people into the auction. I'm going to add those to my watch list. I don't know if I'm going to do anything with them. For some reason, those kinds of domains, I just picture them getting pulled back. Look at that. Dad Talks is cheaper than Mom Talks. I could see that. Okay. Moving on. But I do love those just from a just human standpoint. They're always good for blogs and things like that. Oh my goodness. I feel like I'm 100 years old standing here today. Okay, do some calisthenics. We're going to turn into a stretch show. Oh, man. Okay. Continuing on. I feel like we're getting through a lot of domains. We haven't gotten through this many domain names in a while. Learning art. I don't know. Learning art. That sounds bad. Net bites. And by the way, like when you see the alternatives, wordplay in puns and things like that and domain names are horrible. Do not do that. Like, don't. It's cute on a business card. It sucks for telling somebody. Like if you were to say, oh yeah, I'm Drew with netbites.com. What would be the next line out of my mouth? Bytes spelled B-Y-T-E-S. Because you can't just let people assume it's spelled like that. So it's great on a business card, but if you have to say it out loud, it's going to be wordy. It's going to take a lot. So think about I call it, think about the phonetics of the domain name. How does it sound? Does it make sense? Other people say pass the radio test. Normal news. Is there such a thing? Do people look for normal news? Did I get like love partners? I thought I already saw that. Okay. Cool bucks. In first grade, we had bonus bucks. First grade, anyhow. It was one of my first businesses. I actually worked hard for bonus bucks. Don't have to make money. Money is a side effect, right? You can, if you see one of these that just align with who you are as a person, then go for it. I don't know, like earthsavings.com. If you're passionate about the environment and stuff and want to do something, like go for it. Just keep on keen on green. Does that show up on? Yeah, keen on green. Okay. And there you go. We're through 200 domain names in that amount of time. It felt like we took a long time. It felt like car saving. Yeah, I would want car savings, right? Car saving. Not feeling it. Boop, 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 boop. Page 2. There we go. Let me check in with everybody. Let me see chat. I feel like it's been a little bit of a slow pace. Therapy for professionals, was that on there? Let me go back to the list here and just see. Yeah. So let me go back to here. Crystal, who is my wife, and in her own right, a pretty, like, she has learned and probably could. I want her right here. She's going to be right here. She's going to join me on the show as of some point if we could ever figure out the schedule of it. But therapy professionals, I do want to look at that. So thank you for pulling that back up. That was on screen one. And it's currently $12, ends tomorrow. So there's a chance this could be a home run. Now, do not bid on this domain name. You want to wait until 5 minutes and 10 seconds left. Otherwise, like right now, it's flown under the radar. People pass it up just like I did. That's good for you. If you want this domain name, you want that to happen, but you need to wait as long as possible. Therapyprofessionals.com, 40, very low amount. I'm pretty sure this is one of the keywords that you will not get. So there are a couple people paying some amount, but a lot of times these medical type domains or these medical keywords, Google, again, will not take advertising dollars for, which can help you with your domain name because you're willing to take the money. Google's not, but the only thing is there's not really much happening. 40 searches, therapy professionals. I do like it from the idea of if you called somebody up and you're like, hey, I'm Drew with therapyprofessionals.com, and I'd love to feature you in your area so that way when people are looking for whatever kind of therapy, physical therapy, mental health therapy, couples therapy, whatever, all those different kinds of therapies, and they're looking for therapy professionals, it has some authority and validation when you call and are presenting yourself to that. So even though the keyword volume's down, the actual domain name's pretty high. Now, again, alternatively, therapy professionals, therapy professional. You have to, it splits between singular and plural. Therapy professionaling. No, I mean, it's pretty much those two. Of course, therapy, like there's some alternative, better domain names, but this is a domain name that I could see lower range, as cheap as you can get it, less than $100, but chances are it's going to go for more than that. That middle number, as a domain developer, I probably will not let this domain name go for less than 188. So I will likely bid 188 on this domain name if I remember to. I'm not passionate about it, but I want you to get this domain name. If you are going to develop it, then please, I want you to get this domain. Just let me know over on Twitter. Just DM me. My DMs are open. Drew Walsh over on Twitter. Let me know if you're going to go for it, and I won't bid. Just as long as I know that you're going to bid on it. If nobody lets me know, though, I'm going to bid up to probably $188, just from the perspective of somebody has to have this that is possibly going to develop it. It does fit into our business model. So I'll take it if nobody else will. The numbers don't back it up, though, so it's not a good domain name for your first development project. I only like it from the idea of it's pretty, it has that authority. I don't have anything in those industries. So thanks for bringing that up, Crystal. I appreciate that one. Yep. You want to come down? I know you're upstairs. Come on downstairs. And yeah, Stuart was mentioning the radio test. I never use. I suck at using common vocabulary. It's the downside of being a self-taught person is you kind of name everything yourself. You like all this stuff. So many people were all self-taught. So, and yeah, good. That was a good idea. Yeah, she needs to be on here. If we could figure out the logistics of her schedule, because she doesn't get in till like me coming right on, so she'd have to walk right in here anyhow. Logistics, always a problem. But I would love to have her on here because she can ask the questions that others have, that you probably have. Like I sit here, I see this stuff and I just roll with it. But she is much more, I'm socially awkward. She's a very normal, healthy person. I think I'm fun though. So there's that. Robot parking. I'm just trying to move on so that way I don't say anything that gets me in trouble. I don't want to get in trouble. I've been married long enough to know that trouble's bad. Thanks, doctor. Best aquarium. I do like best is not bad. Top is even better. But I don't know. If you're into products, if you're into aquariums, Best Aquarium is a okay domain name. You can do the affiliate option. So what would that look like? Affiliate would be, you would list out a list of what you consider the best aquariums and have a link out to Amazon or other places they can buy them online. And there you go, bestaquariums.com. And it's not a great business model. It's going to be one that takes a long time to get going. But if you love aquariums, that's a damn good domain name to bust out with. So, okay, one more. Cake Finder. That's me on like Saturday nights. I need cakefinder.com because Papa wants some chocolate cake with some chocolate icing, a cup of coffee. Yeah, Saturday night. That sounds good. Ooh, some vanilla ice cream on top and then dump the coffee on it and just melt it all together. Okay. Cakefinder.com. Okay, so what do we have here? Let's see. Let's get back to wrapping things up. So we went over the portfolio at the beginning. I shared with you the domain names that we had that showed up last week, including my loss that I took on the $20,000 bid, $20,005 bid for culinaryschool.com. We shared that at the beginning of the show, as well as checked in on a couple other domain names. And then let me do a summary real quick and show you some of the domain names we talked about this week. So we had the Crystal brought up, therapyprofessionals.com, which let me make sure nobody's bidding on. Thank you. I'm glad nobody's bidding on it right this second. We want to wait till 5 minutes left to bid on that one. 5 minutes, 10 seconds. There's a reason behind it. Watch other shows. I go into it. Momtalks.com as well as dadtalks.com could just be a fun option. Speaking of therapy, we all could use a little. I know many people who have lost their parents always wish they could talk to mom or dad again. So I could just see that being just a super helpful thing for the world. Maybe an AI or something. Is that too creepy? But like just something. I don't know. Okay, sociallyawkward.com. We have Drew's homepage. $106. We talked about that one briefly. Online homeschool. That was one that we kind of put up in that 4-figure range. So there's some good money, good competition behind that, especially if you're interested in homeschooling and things like that. Could be a good domain name for you. Canvas Finder was a bit of a bust, already probably too expensive. But who knows? If you like the domain name, it's good. It says exactly, it has a good authoritative domain name. What is Cannabis Finder about? It's about finding cannabis. Localization of cannabis stuff. Wireframes.com, great for developers, game developers, as Matt mentioned as well, but pretty expensive. Already outside of the range of most of us as domain developers. Certainly not something I'm bidding on. And then we started it all off with reverselogistics.com. I didn't think it was much of anything. Turns out that there's quite a lot of searches for it. Not a bunch of money. But you could possibly, I think we looked, what did we say with that one? That one, there's some money behind it, low 4 figures for reverse for logistics, which I assume is returns, but I'm not going to Google it to figure out. So there you go. Those are domain names that we talked about this week on Domain to Profit. Hopefully there's some good ones. And Matt's always saying this. Isn't that a Black Mirror? Let me see. I'm not sure, an episode of Black Mirror. I'm not sure what domain name you're talking about there, Matt. Matt is my Black Mirror. Everything, all the time I'm talking about stuff, he's like, isn't that an episode of Black Mirror? Okay, let me see here. Let me go back to Stuart's question here. Do you ever buy any domains that are not an exact match keyword, but a great brand? I don't mess with domain brands very often. I do, especially if I just like it or if it's close to something I'm interested in. Like I own drugguy.com, drugman.com, just because they were fun. I bought them. I own a bunch. So the answer is yes, but I don't spend big money on those domain names. Those are more my fun domain names. They're in my investment portfolio, but mostly just because, $100 got a great domain or domain name that made me laugh. So like awkward, socially awkward. I would love to have that domain name. If I get that for somewhat cheap, I would love to have that in my portfolio. But I guess that, okay. Anyhow, bad example because it is an exact match keyword. But yes, the answer is yes, I do, but not for development very often. If you're buying a brandable, that's when you have to get into building on top of that domain name. It doesn't really have those rich minerals, those rich resources underneath the ground, which is what I'm looking for. Oh yeah, well, so be it. An AI that represents a mom or a dad and it may be a Black Mirror thing, but I don't know. I think a lot of people out there would be perfectly fine having that. Drew, looking for it. Yes, and this is our freaking community. We're all thank you for being part of it as well. I'm glad to have you here. Together, this is the best hour of my entire week. Hopefully, you agree and you feel the same way. We get to look to domains, something we maybe are already doing on our own. We get to talk about business. We get to talk about, creation of things. All this stuff is great stuff. We all get to do it together. So thank you so much for joining me. And I will see you next week live here, Domain to Profit. I'm Drew Wash. Subscribe, like, and all that stuff. Yeah. I need to say that at the beginning, but I never do. But maybe you can let other people know, hey, if you're interested in domains and business, this guy, Drew Wash, does Domain to Profit. And thanks for joining me. See you next week.